From LALATE News Headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Mornings LALATE.
It's a big morning of Mornings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. Breaking news today as a deal has been reached with the House members. And that deal means that the vote will be happening next week, says Nancy Pelosi. In breaking news you're hearing on Mornings LA. This vote will be happening even if the Congressional Budget Office report is not done by next week. And these programs across the board will pay you about $15,000 across all these incredible clusters of checks. I'm going to show you how to get all these incredible sums of money in this big, bold live broadcast direct from Santa Monica this morning about your fourth stimulus and that incredible recon. We'll then be turning over to student loan debt forgiveness. More debt can be forgiven across the board. And then the fifth stimulus of COLA raise. But guess what? After that, I give my commentary. As America saw the highest inflation number released in nearly 30 years yesterday, the CPI, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for fifth stimulus? What does it mean for fourth stimulus? I have all the analysis about those inflation numbers and what the president's response has been to it as well. It's a big, bold, beautiful broadcast, and I'm excited you're here. I'm live with you, direct from Santa Monica, California. We got all the incredible breaking news, totally new this morning, and it starts right now. Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day and hope the weather is good where you are. Jump on the live chat and tell me where you're tuning in from because it is very hot here in Southern California. But the heat will be heating up in the House next week as Nancy Pelosi, in new statements today, reveals that the vote will be happening next week. We are confirmed and ready to rock and roll. We will be done with the House within just days. This is as the Congressional Budget Office issued new statements that says their report may not be done by next week. No problem for Nancy. The programs across the board will pay you about $15,000. Get that pen and paper ready. This is huge money. One of the biggest payouts we've ever seen in the history of this channel. It is fourth stimulus, and we all have the details in this recording. We'll be turning over to fifth stimulus. And why that consumer price index number released yesterday about inflation is deeply, deeply at issue. Then we'll be turning also to student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven by the president by executive order. I have all those details and more. In a lot of breaking news, there's a lot of new stuff happening today. I'm excited you're here. And this, my friends, is LALATE, America's most talked about financial news channel in America. The only one that covers the subject matter. If you tune into one financial channel, they cover stocks. Another one, they cover the economy. This channel is the only one in the United States, broadcast or online, that covers the subject matter with no less than 16 shows per day, 24 hours of programming, 7 days a week. You found it. And it's LALATE, America's best at its hand. Like this video, subscribe, and consider becoming a member and get that incredible newsletter every night from this channel. Let's go into this incredible recon. But first, let me give you a broad stroke of what we'll be covering in this jam-packed recording of breaking news today. First, we're going to go over this incredible recon broadly with the three clusters of checks and how much they pay and how they pay. Then, after the commercial break, we'll be coming back and going over the breaking news from Pelosi and the president with the vote and also the CBO report. This is all brand new today on this channel. Then we'll be going over each of these checks one at a time that pay you on average about $15,000 across all these incredible programs. And then we'll be going over the student loan debt forgiveness, the fifth stimulus, and my analysis, which puts in context the very, very troubling inflation numbers released yesterday. Big broadcast, and it starts right now. 3 weeks, the subcommittee passed series of checks across three clusters, and now they're going to the finish line in the House of Representatives. These three clusters with these three add-ons are the reconciliation or the fourth stimulus recon that'll pay you on average about $15,000 across all these incredible programs. The viewers of this channel under third stimulus got $45,000, and when you look at fourth stimulus, it's at least $15,000 to start, but could be a lot more than that. It's separated across three clusters of checks. You're going to get these monies. You're eligible. You're going to learn it, and I'm going to show you how, and it starts right now. When I refer to a check, I'm going to tell you if it's front end, hard cold cash checks, or back end. Let's go to that first cluster right now of checks you're going to get. Hazard pay. This is back end. That's for the essential workers for one more year. $4,000 elder checks. Front end, $4,000 for care for young children. They got $550 checks for my college students for the Pell Grant. Front end, yes. Exciting. Then they got home repairs front end for low-income community homes. Then they got the big money of the CTC for one more year. Front end checks, $3,600 or $3,000. Finally, they got in there the $12,500 for the purchase price of a new electric vehicle, U.S. auto manufactured, or 15% for a new electric bike. Back end. Wow, that is incredible. And that is the first clusters of checks. Everything passed in the House subcommittee, surviving and going to a finality in the House bill. The first add-on comes from Maxine Waters, and it survived, and it is incredible. It is front end, and it is money for the purchase price of your first home. Wow, she got it in there. She wanted it $25,000. That price point not going to be in there, just a little bit less. Again, that is money for the purchase price of your first home. How do you get this money? Stay with me. Later in this video, I'm going to go over all these incredible checks one at a time, and get that pen and paper ready. Let's go to the second cluster of checks we got in there. Paid leave and family leave. Wow, this is thousands of dollars. Then they got in there pre-kindergarten. This is front end, and it's great for 1 year. Community college out. The housing tax credit back end, and then they got in there the home repairs for weatherizing your home. That is front end, and you need to definitely weatherize your home, especially if Kristen Sanima shows up knocking at the door, and she asks, "Where is Joe Manchin in that Maserati?" "I weatherized my house, Kristen. That's why he couldn't get in." That is the second add-on. That's the second cluster of checks. Wow, let's go to the second add-on. It is not a check. It's a benefit, and they got it in there, and it's huge. It's $250 billion for my seniors on disabilities, and also for my seniors and my people on disabilities. It is home health care services, totally free. Whoa. They wanted $250 billion from Bob Casey, the senator, and Joe Biden, but they got a number just a little bit less than that. Wow. Let's go to the third add-on of checks. Here we go. We are rocking and rolling. Do you feel the excitement? I do. Here we go. Free school meals for all. They got it in there, $65 per month. That is front-end checks. Cheaper prescription medication, benefit. Immigration reform, benefit. Farmers don't know. Free internet, don't know. Clean energy out. Workers don't know. And then the Medicare. Let's go over those details on air because there's a lot of them. First, dropping the Medicare eligibility age, Senate. Vision and dental, Senate. Going to be taken care of on the Senate side. But the hearing they got in there, and the Medicaid aid holdout states, they got that in there on the House side. Wow, incredible, great news. Which brings us to the third add-on, that MSC, which stands for monthly or multiple IRS stimulus check. It has always been a Senate play to be added by the senators on the Senate side. We're coming out of the House next week. This is great news. So the senators have always been the advocates for it and leading the charge. 6 of them, 2 C's, 2 W's, and 2 S's. Casey Coons, Sanders Schumer, Warren Wyden. And what's important to understand is they have 2 big opportunities. First, the biggest opportunity is the Senate subcommittees. You're going to see later in this video how the senators say, I got a lot of work to do on this recon. You want this. You don't want a quick Senate vote because they have a lot of stuff to do. And that a lot of stuff involves potentially this. Then we have the Votorama, a 2-day event in the Senate that's at the very, very end of the process. That 2-day event of Votorama is where senators introduce changes to whatever was left out by House members. Under third stimulus, they put in during Votorama the tax forgiveness of student loan debt. Huge, saving Americans $10,000 out of their pocket right away. That was done because the House members didn't take care of it. Which brings us to our statement of advocacy. It's important to pick up the phone and advocate because guess what? As we head into the Senate, this is where they need to hear from you. Let's read that incredible statement of advocacy across the board. They now have in total between congressional senators' offices received more contacts of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures in the American petition. There you go. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have a better understanding of what Americans are getting through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories in the viewers And they have the voice of the people in LA, as you have been too loud to be ignored. This is a message from the chief of staff to the #1 legislator in the recon. Very, very kind. Let's read the last sentence on air together. Please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy. As the professional voice of the people, you have become LA, and continue until this becomes law. Well, we're coming out of the House. We're going to the Senate. This is where the game starts heating up. This is where there's a lot of things missing. So says the senators. They're going to start adding it. Casey Coons, Warren Wyden, Sanders Schumer. 2 S's, 2 W's, 2 C's. 2 today, 2 tomorrow, 2 the day after. Schedule your phone calls every day this week. You need to advocate. Don't sit back and say, whatever happened to? When is it landing? Is it coming by direct deposit? That's donut language. We are here to advocate. It's a great, great bill that will pay you coming out of the House side about at least $15,000 across the board. If you got money from this channel, under third stimulus, an average of $45,000, you're going to do really well. In fourth stimulus, in the second half of this video, I'll go over these programs that pay you about $15,000 across the board. And we're going to go over the absence of a CBO report next week. No problem for Nancy Pelosi, because guess what? She's doing exactly what I said she should do. She's calling the vote next week. She confirms that in new statements. This is all brand new. This is all breaking news. If you tuned in, you're hearing it for the first time on mornings. Then student loan debt forgiveness. More debt can be forgiven by executive order. CPI. That consumer price index number, horrible yesterday. The worst inflation in 30 years. What does that mean for fifth stimulus? And what does it mean for you? I have my analysis later in this video. Stay with me. We got a huge broadcast because the toast is toasting, the butter is buttering, the coffee is brewing, and I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now in the second half of this video as we go over that big student loan debt forgiveness that can be going by executive order, and then this stimulus as well. But we'll be turning to the exciting news that Americans are waiting for, and here we go. The statement you wanted to hear. Nancy Pelosi confirming the vote will be happening this coming week, potentially Thursday night. This is with the absence of Congressional Budget Office report. The latest details from both sides. I have the latest in this recording. It's breaking news. Programs in that'll pay you about $15,000 with a House deal done. But we can have more money on top of that when the Senate gets the recon as well. It's a huge live recording. I'm excited you're here. And my friends, this is LA, America's most talked about financial news channel. The only one that covers the scope of reporting across the globe. 16 shows per day, hundreds of hours of programming per week, live on air, taped on air, and I want you part of this incredible family. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers on YouTube record. If you want to learn about how to get big sums of money, you want to subscribe. Like this video and consider becoming a member to get that incredible newsletter coming out tonight. at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Let's go into all the dramatics that unfolded, and here we go, rock and roll, ready for the second half. Nancy Pelosi doing exactly what I had hoped she would do. Nancy Pelosi issued a statement overnight that says the recon will absolutely go for a vote next week. There you go. What's at issue? Last Friday, Nancy Pelosi confronted an issue with the moderate Democrats and the progressive Democrats trying to block one another. So she got an agreement reached, as detailed in the channel over the last week. That detail reached had the moderate Democrats raise their hand and vote and say, I will vote in favor of the recon with the release of the Congressional Budget Office report, but no later than the week of November 15th. The last 48 hours on air, I was saying there's an issue. When you read the sentence, does that mean they have to have the report, the Congressional Budget Office report, to vote in favor of the recon? Or if they don't have the report, can they vote again? Can they say, I'm not ready to vote? Nancy Pelosi, due to the graces of a god, of a good reporter, got Nancy Pelosi that question. It was a question I have been asking for 2 days. And when in Scotland, at the climate conference, a reporter got the question to Nancy Pelosi on air, asking her, if you don't have the CBO report done by this next week, the week of November 15th, will you still be calling the vote on the recon and getting it finished? She said yes. It's huge. It's breaking. You're hearing for the first time on this recording right now. She says the vote will happen next week, even if the CBO report is not available. Yes, we intend, that is our plan, to pass the bill the week of November 15th, as indicated our statements we made at the time of passing the roads and bridges, and we're very proud of it. She said this during the COP26 UN Climate Summit in Scotland overseas. What was the issue? The issue was the phrasing of the agreement. If you're an English major, you know how important words are. And over the last 2 days, they detailed the words of the statement. Let's read the agreement that was signed and voted and approved by the moderate Democrats: Gothenhammer, Rice, Stephanie Murray, Schrader, and Ed Casey's, people that were causing issues for the recon. The statement said, we will be voting in favor of the recon in its current form, other than technical changes, as expeditiously as we receive the Congressional Budget Office report, but no later, in no event, any later than the week of November 15th. As an English major, you would know that the last part of the sentence overrides the front of the sentence because it goes last. But in no event later than the week of November 15th, meaning if you don't have the report, in no event are we voting later than the week of November 15th. Why am I bringing this up? Because the report will not be released by the week of November 15th. We're now seeing in breaking news today. This Congressional Budget Office says now that they may not have that report done by the end of next week. Today, the Congressional Budget Office report said that over the last several months, we have provided technical assistance to committees as they develop their proposals on various parts of this bill. The analysis of the bill's provisions are complicated, and the CBO will provide a cost estimate for the entire bill as soon as practical. So, translation, not next week, but don't worry, because Nancy Pelosi has held her position and is upholding her agreement, and obviously got someone to write a very good agreement, because the language is, in no event, this is going to be later than November 15th, it will pass on November 15th. So what did the Budget Office release today? The Congressional Budget Office released today 3 parts of the recon, which concern Homeland Security, Science, Small Business, and Veterans Administration. 4 parts. Why is it much of nothing? Because the 4 parts have a total of $2 million per provision, not billion, millions. So these are very, very, very tiny parts of the recon, just millions of dollars here, millions of dollars there. Those are the only parts of the report that they have done. So, great news is that we got a vote coming up next week, potentially on Thursday night. The recon will be done in the House, and that House bill will pay you on average across all these incredible clusters of checks about $15,000. If you've been with this channel since January 2021, I had a pre-release version of third stimulus before it became law. And when I looked at it, I said, I can get you about $15,000 from this third stimulus. When it became law, I looked at it again, I said, I can still get you about $15,000. I was wrong. The average view of this channel got $45,000 from third stimulus. And the great news is all those programs you have gotten money from this channel under third stimulus are coming back with more money on top of that. So when I say $50,000, it's on the low end. It is definitely conservative, and it is before the senators add their provisions in there on top of that. You should be ecstatic. Let's go over the provisions right now, and we're going to start with paid leave. The first of 3 provisions added last week. Paid leave is huge. What is it? You have to stay home because of the birth of a child or someone in the household, death or illness of someone in the household, not COVID related whatsoever, just life in general. You have to stay home because you sprained your ankle at a pickup basketball game. You have to stay home because your son has the flu. It's a covered benefit. The great news is that it pays a lot. $1,700 for if you make $70,000 or more per year under third stimulus proposals, $800 a week if you make $35,000 or more per year, $400 a week if you make $15,000 or more per year under third stimulus proposals, but up to 4 weeks per year. Yes, 4 weeks. That's $5,000 to $6,000 per year if that is what happens to you. On the low end, about $1,600. Wow, it's huge. But the best part of it is the eligibility. It's everyone, all income levels and all types of workers, W-2 or 1099. So if you work as an Uber Lyft driver, your wife is getting pregnant, and you only make $20,000 per year, you get that check. If you work at a department store as its manager, as a W-2, and you make $170,000 per year, you get that check. Wow, that is great news. The second add-on that I said was going to be added in there and got in there last week is SALT. SALT is the Gothenheimer moderate Democrat provision that helps millions of Americans. It is great. When you go to pay your state taxes, you pay a certain amount of state taxes. When you go to pay your federal taxes, you can then take the state tax number and use it as a deduction on the federal tax return. But there's a problem. Under the 2017 Trump tax code, you can only deduct up to $10,000 of your state taxes on your federal tax return. No longer the case under the incredible add-on to this recon. You will now be able to deduct up to $72,500 of state taxes on your federal tax return. It's huge for people in states like New York and New Jersey with big tax burdens. All right, then they got in there $40 billion of free job training. It's huge. Now you'll be able to learn how to make me some bacon. They got in there the Medicaid gap fix. Big. This is for Obamacare in those Republican states. Republican states have offered Obamacare but do not want to pay for it. So now we have the workaround plan, which will provide you in those 12 holdout Republican states where Obamacare is offered but not paid for by the Republican governor. They'll offer you subsidized private insurance if you're a low-income person for many, many years to come. Great news. That's from Raphael Warnock and also Jim Claiborne. Immigration reform got in there. There's no check for immigrants on either the recon or the roads and bridges. That's fake news. Housing assistance. Wow. This is a bombshell. Under third stimulus. The average viewer of this channel got $45,000, most of it from rent, utilities, mortgage assistance across the board. Many of the viewers have learned how to get 2 or 3 rounds of this money when there was $45 billion of it under third stimulus. Under fourth stimulus, there's $150 billion of it. So you will be able to get another round of this money. You're going to see later in this video how rent inflation is a big concern for next year. Inflation is going to go up for rent, meaning the price of rent is going to go up. You're going to need this provision. I'm going to be here to help you get this money across the board. But we got other checks in there as well. And I said, if you have complex, advanced questions, send it to me in private message, social media, advanced questions about these programs. I will feature your answers on air because it helps others. My spirit is helping people across the board. Here are some of the questions you've been asking. The home repairs, low-income community, multiple repairs, yes. Front-end checks, so far, yes. Then the weatherizing your home, all types of homes, not just low income. Then the first-time home purchase money. First time, yes, we have to see the definition. One viewer is a single woman. She was married when they bought their home together. Can she now get it as a single woman? I don't know. First time home, what type of home? Ryan asks, is that just a brick and mortar? I don't think so. I think it's any type of single family, including a trailer like he asked. Then what type of purchaser? Is it only low income purchaser? I don't believe so, but we'll watch that as well. $150 billion for home health care for my seniors and people on disabilities. Then $550 checks, front-end checks for people on the Pell Grant, my college students. If you're on the Pell Grant 2 years ago, no, there's nothing retro in this recon for you. Then the big exciting details is $12,500 back-end checks for the purchase of an electric car from a U.S. Union shop. So that is only electric, and it's also only Ford, Chrysler, GM, and their subsidiaries. People have been asking, can you give an example? Yeah, so the Chevy Volt is one of the cheapest cars that qualifies. $30,000 approximately, $12,500 approximately to it. It's great. That's almost 50% of the purchase price. Then $65 front-end checks for my students. This believed to go all the way to the end of high school when you're not in school, when you're in summer break. That's $65 per check, per child, per month. This third add-on is huge, and it's cheaper prescription medication. It's a game changer, and it instantly kicks in the minute this becomes law. Last morning's LALATE on last Saturday, I asked viewers how much you're paying for insulin. Mark's wife, $900+. Kathy and Lisa paying $700. When this becomes law, overnight, $35 a prescription per dose for insulin. It's huge. What happened? Over 20 years, Big Medicare was unable to negotiate with Big Pharma because of the charter establishment of its language said they cannot negotiate for medication. So if Big Pharma wanted to charge you $1,000 for insulin doses, they could, and they did. Well, not anymore. The President of the United States did what he does best, which was last Wednesday, he picked up the phone and called Kristen Sinema and negotiated with her and said, you're not coming on board with this. You need to. You need to come on board with it. And she said yes. A major win for the President of the United States, getting Kristen Sinema to agree to it, which means that instantly, you're going to see as soon as it becomes law, 20 medications the next morning will be dramatically cheaper. Those 20 medications will go under good faith negotiations with Big Pharma and Medicare overnight, and you're going to see those cheap prices. Those prices cannot increase more than the price of inflation per year, and the number of medications will grow to 30 by the year 2028. This is big medication, most expensive. Diabetes, cancer, and arthritis, Medicare Part B and Medicare Part D. The praises of this legislation still coming on in. Chuck Schumer says, we're going to do more of this next year, make it even better. Ron Wyden says, for the first time, American government's hands are not tied behind their back. Dick Durbin and Scott Peters says, really good for seniors. And then we have Jan Skakowski and others saying, here we go. This is great news. Two provisions that are potentially going to be removed from the recon either this week or next week by the Senate parliamentarian are immigration reform and paid leave. The Senate parliamentarian is a government official who determines what can stay in the recon or not per the rules of the Senate. Immigration reform, she's previously ruled, cannot go in there, so I think it's coming out. Paid leave, do not know across the board. Now, here's what's important for you to understand is that when this recon is passed in the House next week, guaranteed, then what happens when we go over to the Senate? The Senate is going to add a lot of stuff in there. We have countless senators saying it's a good bill, but we got to make it better, and there's major gaps of missing legislation. So yes, these programs across this incredible recon on the House side pay you about $15,000 across all these incredible programs combined, but guess what? Senators are going to add more provisions in there, presumably during subcommittee, not just votorama. We have Bernie Sanders saying it's the best bill since the 1960s, but has major gaps in there. When asked, are you going to add stuff? Of course I am, he says, like dental and vision. We have Ron Wyden, Senator, Oregon. Progressive says, yeah, it's not done until the Senate acts. And there's a significant amount of work to be done. Senator Chris Coons, Senator Stabenow, Senator Schumer, Senator Menendez, and Senator Murphy all say that changes are coming when we land in the Senate. Get that pen and paper ready. Time to go over some more provisions. I want you to get every single check you can from this recon. That's the spirit of this channel. It's always been the spirit of this channel, helping you get money, whether it's the PPP or the PUA or the EIDL, whether it was the LWA or third stimulus. Now it's fourth stimulus. Here we go. Pre-kindergarten, 1 year front-end check, 3 to 4 year olds. In the child tax credit, 1 more year, $3,600 or $3,000. Eligibility. Some documents showing a $150,000 annual salary or less. I show it $60,000. Earned income tax credit, back end, 1 more year for my essential workers. Home health care, probably a covered benefit, otherwise a check. And then Medicare, The hearing aid, that is likely a front end check across the board. The money for those housing issues across the board, yes, that is the rent, the utilities, the mortgage assistance, the home repairs, low income community, the weatherize your home, and the purchase price of your first home. That is all front end checks. $550 checks for my college students for the Pell's Grant, currently on Pell's Grant, and the $65 per month for the student when not in school for the food. So what provisions are going in? Definitely on the Senate side, so says senators, in addition to their push for that MSC IRS stimulus check or checks. Bernie Sanders saying, you know what? We're still going to go after that lowering the eligibility age for Medicare. Currently 65, he wanted at 55. Bob Casey, who got the other provision in there, he wants it at 60. Then Bernie wants us to take care of teeth and vision. He says it's unconscionable. We don't have teeth in our mouth and we cannot see. How much are those? Let's go over the provisions right now. The teeth would be at least a check. Last time in the recon, it was an $850 check in the mail to my seniors on Medicare. Bernie wants it bigger. He wants it 10 years of full benefits or 3 years of full benefits. The vision is the easiest one. He wants an eye exam and a pair of glasses per year. Okay, $150. Put it in the mail. Send it to my seniors as a single check, and it's a covered benefit, and it just comes to them once per year. Very simple. It's cheaper than hearing. We're going to see those details as soon as we land in the Senate. Which brings us finally to my notes. Where do I see numbers not lining up? A lot of provisions. I don't show the child tax credit at $150,000 or less. I show it $60,000 or less. I don't show the housing at $150. I show it at $175. And the in-home healthcare, I show it actually higher, $100 to $200 billion. More about that coming up later in this video when I give you my commentary and analysis in the context of the new inflation numbers. But let's take a detour over to student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven. The president has said, I'll forgive $10,000 of student loan debt. Democrats should take it. He's forgiven student loan debts for people who became disabled after graduation, who became public servants after graduation, and nonprofit workers 10 years after graduation. The Democrats should take this last $10,000, not this next $10,000, because it's not the last. They can come and do more next year. Fifth stimulus, boy, your benefits are going up next year if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, 5.9%. Have you got the letter? Don't worry. Your benefits are going up, but get ready for fifth stimulus right behind that. That raises your benefits up an additional time and then applies the new benchmark next year. Inflation. Well, your benefits are going to go up 2 more times if that's the case. That's really good news because that inflation rate is going to be about 3% next December, I've been saying. So says Jerome Powell as well. So that would mean 1, 2, 3 lifts across the board. Then they're going to remove the asset cap, remove the income cap, and remove the marriage penalty. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? Become a member today. The membership link is under the video. Become a member to get that newsletter, the only type of its kind among a news broadcast in the nation right now that comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, written by me. Features all the big money under first, second, and third stimulus, delivered by the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system, totally free, and the only alert system for a news organization currently offered. It's very important to get that newsletter because third stimulus is still paying. Still paying. Get another round of rent. Get another round of utilities. And there we go, which tees us up for the commentary to wrap this video this morning because, boy, I got a lot of commentary. And that commentary starts with that consumer price index number released yesterday. The consumer price index number released yesterday concerns inflation. Inflation means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and there's a lot of different benchmarks for inflation. But when you're looking at inflation, what you're looking at is how much the things cost. And what happened? Back in July, when I first was recording about inflation, I said by December, inflation will be at least 5%. And I said transitory, temporary. At the time, the Federal Reserve was saying 2%, 1%. Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, 2%. I said, no way. It's going to be 5% at least. By late summer, I said a little bit higher and maybe not temporary. The number that came in yesterday is a year-to-year number. It came in at 6.9%. The highest seen in 30 years. That's 6.9% growth from the year before. What do the numbers show when you break down the numbers? Let's look at the numbers when we're seeing how much do the numbers go up year to date. This is compared to last year. Fuel energy, used car, new car, food, meat, and poultry among the numbers were released yesterday. And what did they show? Fuel oil went up 59.1% compared to the year before. Energy went up 30%. Used cars went up 26%. New cars went up 9.8%. Food went up 5%. But when you look at meat, poultry, fish, and eggs, they went up 12% from the year before. Moreover, the numbers revealed that the price of goods went up faster and higher than the workers' salaries went up during that same period of time. All right, so what is the issue? The issue, and why is this happening, and what is the solution to it? The issue is what's called the supply chain backup, or the supply chain. When we're on lockdown, the world was on lockdown, and when we were all on lockdown across the globe, factories were not producing goods. So when the lockdown was over, there were no goods because generally you produce the goods ahead of time. You produce the goods ahead of time overseas, ship them in to the United States ahead of time, get them on trucks ahead of time, and then ship them to the stores so that they're in the stores when the demand is needed. Well, none of those events happened. We came out of lockdown and the factories started to produce, but they have to produce and then they have to ship and then they have to ship and then they have to put it on a truck and then they have to get in the stores. The products were not there. So what happened? Prices started going up and each price started to increase across the board. The impact, for example, when you look at meat, a slice of meat, the reason why the meat went up in 1 year 12% is not because there's no cows, but because there was no people to slaughter the cows, then to put the food on the truck, to pay for the oil for the truck, to drive the truck, and then get into the store and stock the store. There were no people to do this. It was a compounding problem. What's happening overseas right now is that the factories in China are overproducing. So they're running at 300% capacity, so that by February, March next year, you will see overcapacity of goods. You'll see too many goods flooding the U.S. shores, which is good because then you'll go from undersupply to oversupply, and it'll soften itself out. But the other issue was lack of workers. There was a lack of workers. Sadly enough, the unemployment benefits were still being paid out, and people still on unemployment benefits were not working. There's belief that as those unemployment benefits have worn out, more workers will come back into the workplace. But when you look at the numbers, you see that the price of goods have gone up more than the salary raises for the workers, meaning that even if your salary went up $2 an hour currently, your price of goods when you go to purchase them have gone up faster. What was the reaction to the news yesterday from the President of the United States? The reaction from the President of the United States, here comes my commentary in this video. He first said, it's a problem. Good. He addressed the problem. That's what you want him to do. Second, he says, I feel empathy for your situation. Good. You want him to have empathy for you and your situation. But what happened after that, not on point. He talked about stuff that was simply not on point. He said, this is why the roads and bridges legislation needed to be passed because it will solve these type of problems. Untrue. The roads and bridges has nothing to do with solving the inflation problem, which is a problem between now and next year. The roads and bridges doesn't ramp up that quickly as a body of legislation. It's a slow-moving implementing body of legislation over 10 years. It doesn't hit the economy real hard and fast like second or first stimulus. It's a slow 10-year program. So it's untrue. Yesterday, the House Ways and Means Committee sent out a tweet, and you saw me react to the tweet saying the roads and bridges will create an enormous number of jobs, which will solve the supply chain in the next and solve the supply chain and inflation. All untrue. The roads and bridges creates no jobs this year. You need people. And the problem with inflation is not there's a lack of jobs. There is an oversupply of jobs. There's an undersupply of people willing to take those jobs. And so that is the situation at hand. So the issue was the president addressed the inflation. He empathized with the inflation, but he delivered no policy statements about it. He said, my number one concern is dealing with this right now. Well, it's supposed to have been dealt with several months ago. We're behind on the ball. There's two bodies of government that deal with inflation. the president and the Federal Reserve. Both are under fire. The Federal Reserve has been buying mortgage-backed instruments since the start of the pandemic to support the economy and make sure there's enough liquidity, money, dollars flowing in the economy so that banks will not go under. That is no longer needed. The Federal Reserve has not tailored back yet, or what's called tapering. So that lack of tapering has put the Federal Reserve under fire, and Jay Powell, the president on the other side, has not solved the supply chain issue. Here's the example. You go to the gas, you fill up the gas. You see how expensive gas is. The president has reserves of natural gas and fuel and oil he can release that are in reserves held and owned by the federal government. He can release that to drop the price of oil. These are the type of things that Americans need right now. They need cheaper oil. They need cheaper food and goods. And talking about legislation that rolls out and impacts the economy 10 years from now, not good situation. Now, I understand the president wants a win. The president wants to show a win. You got to win with roads and bridges. He will have a big pageantry event this coming Monday. I passed the roads and bridges. Good. Give it to him. But that has nothing to do with solving inflation. It has nothing to do with bringing down the price of fuel, which is up 59%, and you're doing heating oil prices during these winter months. It has nothing to do with poultry and meat up 12% in 1 year. These are issues the president needs to address now. When looking at forced stimulus and when looking at fist stimulus, which of these two bodies of legislation have to deal with inflation? Fist stimulus is absolutely 100% on point with inflation. Why? Fist stimulus talks about SSI, SSDI, seniors, and Social Security recipients not being paid the going rate of this economy for many years. So going into 2020, seniors were not being paid the going rate. Then the lockdown came and seniors were left behind. Now there's inflation and seniors are getting the 5.9% COLA raise. Okay, but that's still not caught up. That is what the SSI reform is talking about, that you are not being paid enough to be able to afford items, that you are much like the worker. The worker got $1, $2 more per hour to work. But the problem is the poultry. The problem is the gas has gone up more than that amount, meaning your salaries didn't go up in equal level to the amount in which your goods are going up. Same thing with seniors or people on disabilities. Your benefits have not gone up while enough as the items you're buying have gone up a lot more. You're going to see words in the next few days across the landscape like stagflation, which refers to the balancing of ensuring that your benefits or your employment checks go up as fast as the cost of the goods you're buying go up. If they don't, we have an economic problem, and that's stagflation. So the next question is this really on point with forced stimulus? Yes, and not really no. When you were watching this channel in 2020, you heard Mitch McConnell often say, you don't want to give too much stimulus to the economy because the economy is running too hot. The economy is too stimulated at the moment. That is why it's not really on point, because that's not what a lot of these programs are about. So the answer is broadly no. Inflation is not solved by forced stimulus, and forced stimulus is not really directly related to inflation. There's one place in the recon it is 100% on point. 100% on point. It's the housing part of the recon. The housing part of the recon, and especially the rent, is exactly on point, because as rent and rent prices is part of the inflation indicator. How much more has rent gone up in the last year compared to the year before? A lot, across all parts of the country. And there are reports that are coming out today that says the rent is too darn high. It's going to go up higher next year as well. If the rent goes up, you can't afford the rent. You can't afford the rent, you need rent aid. That's why forced stimulus is right on point for purposes of rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and even for the purchase price of your first home. You want to buy a home, you can't, because now the purchase price of the home has gone up. But when looking at housing prices versus rental prices, it's the rent that is clearly an inflationary concern right at the moment. It is out of control, the rent prices. So that's why the rent part of forced stimulus is 100% on point, not so much the other parts of the recon. It's a very fluid situation. And what you're going to see this coming week is the president hopefully addressing more about the word of inflation. He can't run away from it. He can't run away from it. He has to address it. And you have to hope that his message on point is not talking about legislation, lack of its structure over 10 years solving inflation. It does nothing for inflation. It's absolutely not on point. You can brag that the roads and bridges has passed. You can brag that the recon is going to pass the House, but you have to stay on point and you have to address this subject matter. Otherwise, it can get a little bit unraveled. Coming up next is morning's crypto as Bitcoin and Ethereum are going up because of inflationary concerns. I'll have that live broadcast coming up right after this. And then I'm back with you at 11 a.m. at noontime, live on air. We got a full schedule of breaking news shows all today. There's a lot of breaking news. I don't want you to miss any show. It's important for you to learn about all this money. It's important for you to be informed about all this type of money. If you have very complicated questions, send it me on private message and I'll feature it live on air. My spirit is helping people and you helping others across the board. But next, join me live on air for Morning's Crypto. And then at noontime at 11 a.m. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers and 140 million views in a year and a half. Like this video and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Stay informed, stay focused. Get that newsletter tonight if you're a member. And stay with Ally for more.